Shows how little you know politics.
Choose your destiny.
You can go left or you can go right. You can go forward, but never ever back.
I want to hear your thoughts.
Good evening, my little one. I shall make you psychotic.
Mommy, what does psychotic mean?
I want to hear your thoughts.
Choose your destiny.
You can go left or you can go right. You can go forward, but never ever back. Yeah. Woke up. I ain't feeling your side. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? KCE, King Chaka.
It's another one. It was some chocolate chip cookies in there too. Did you get them? That's for you. You didn't get them? It's whatever. I got those for you. You don't have to go back. Whatever you want to do. Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all feel? Remember, an educated public cannot be controlled. Learn to be active. The views and events expressed here are totally whacked and are not necessarily the views of anyone. Can y'all effing hear me? I'm getting something that's going on. But ¿cómo estás? Bien, bien, bien. Podemos ayudarnos más? I think we can. Remember, don't take my word for it. Look that mess up. Please. I apologize for being late. I'm late. I'm mad late. And I have to work in the morning, so I can't stay on here very long. But, you know, I've been doing sporadic. I'm going to give y'all a bonus show on Sunday night for sure. But I've been busy writing papers and doing presentations for school, and I worked like way too much. All day yesterday, all day today. I will work all day tomorrow. So, you know, I do this out of love. I love y'all. You know, spreading awareness is what I try to do here. And hopefully we can do some of that tonight. My lighting is a little weird because my eyes is messing with my eyes. But anyways, I'm here for y'all. I love y'all. Really do. You know, the name of the show today is Haunted House. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking like I typed in haunted house in search, and it pops up haunted house and haunted castle. But you never see haunted TP or haunted Adobe. You know, you never see haunted mud hut. You know, uh, why? Why? I wonder why is that is. Why that is. I mean, I'm just gonna lay that out there and give y'all something to think about with that, and I'm gonna come back to that later. But haunted house, like, it's like hanging out, like ghosts or spirits hanging out. You know, like something happened in the past and it's affecting the present. You know, something that got lost in between, something that hasn't been resolved, you know. It's like something is wrong with the foundation, you know. That's kind of where I'm getting at with that. You know, the biggest news, of course, is freaking Israel, Palestine. Like, you know, we have to talk about that. So I would like to start off light because that is so heavy. Um, it's so heavy, you know, and it doesn't matter what I say about it. Half the audience is gonna hate me or whatever, you know. No matter what I say about it, there's going to be a percentage of the audience that's going to not be happy about, you know, what I say. And, you know, you can present facts, you can show videos, and it doesn't matter that much. I think a lot of people have their mind made up already on the topic. And then, you know, but we're going to talk about it either way. But it's like, some of the stuff people say, like it's been like one of the things people say is war in the Middle East have been there forever, and I'm like, no, like that's a narrative, like, you know. And one of the things I really want to harp on related to this topic is how you had, you know, Palestinians aren't, it's not necessarily a religious group, they're peoples. And you have Jewish Palestinians, you have Christian Palestinians, you have Muslim Palestinians, you have ones that don't follow any of those religions, you know. And also in that part of the world, you had Muslims, Christians, Jewish folks who were living coincide with each other fairly peaceful for a long time until you had this project that came along that called itself the State of Israel. You know, the idea of a Zionist. You know, and I have to ask myself, like, what is that? Let's look that up right quick while I'm thinking about it. So let's look this up. Let me share. And we're going to mosey around and come back around because I don't want to hit this too hard starting off. So am I sharing and can y'all hear me? Okay, so looking at this screen, I just typed in Zionist on the screen, and this is what popped up here. It says, a supporter of Zionism, a person who believes in the development and protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel. In the sentence, it says, the artist's parents were committed Zionists. Number 2, it says, in South Africa, a member of any of a group of independent churches which practice a form of Christianity incorporating elements of traditional African beliefs. Interesting. So it says adjective relating to or advocating Zionism. Mainstream Zionist thinking, it says. Related to a group of independent churches in South Africa which practice a form of Christianity incorporating elements of traditional African beliefs. So, what is Zionism? It says a movement for originally the reestablishment and now the development and protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel. It was established as a political organization in 1897 under Theodor Herzl and was later led by Chaim Weizmann. So let's go down a little bit. Wikipedia. Zionism is a nationalist movement that emerged in the 19th century to espouse support for the establishment of a homeland for the Jewish people. Hold on, let's go to this. Let me make sure I'm sharing. Thank y'all for listening, man. Thank y'all for joining. Let's take a ride together tonight. Zionism, the movement that emerged in the 19th century to espouse support for establishment of a homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine, a region roughly corresponding to the land of Israel in Jewish tradition. Following the establishment of Israel, Zionism became an ideology that supports the development and protection of the state of Israel. Zionism initially emerged in Central and Eastern Europe as a national revival movement in the 19th century, both in reaction to newer waves of anti-Semitism and as a response to Haskalah, or Jewish Enlightenment. Soon after this, most leaders of the movement associated the main goal with creating the desired homeland in Palestine, then an area controlled by the Ottoman Empire. This process was seen by the Zionist movement as an ingathering of exiles, an effort to put a stop to the exoduses and persecutions that have marked Jewish history by bringing the Jewish people back to their historic homeland. From 1897 to 1948, the primary goal of the Zionist movement was to establish the basis for a Jewish homeland in Palestine, and therefore to consolidate it. In a unique variation of the principle of self-determination, the lovers of Zion united in 1884 and in 1897. The first Zionist Congress was organized in the late 19th and early 20th century. A large number of Jews immigrated to first Ottoman and later Mandatory Palestine, and at the same time, diplomatic attempts were made to gain worldwide recognition and support. Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Zionism has continued primarily to advocate on behalf of Israel and to address threats to its continued existence and security. Zionism has never been a uniform movement. Its leaders, parties, and ideologies frequently diverge from one another. Compromises and concessions were made in order to achieve a shared cultural and political objective as a result of growing anti-Semitism and yearning to return to the ancestral country. A variety of types of Zionism have emerged, including political Zionism, liberal Zionism, labor Zionism, revisionist Zionism, cultural Zionism, and religious Zionism. Advocates of Zionism view it as a national liberation movement for the repatriation of a persecuted people to its ancestral homeland. Critics of Zionism view it as colonialist, racist, or exceptionalist ideology or movement. So yeah, you already got, by the end of the little passage here, you already have a inkling of the disparities between even the idea of it. I think that if you ask a lot of people what it was, I think that they would have different, definitions, depending on what their sympathies were about it. I think a lot of this stuff, like other things, people really just don't know. Like this simple little Google search that I did is something that I think a lot of people would never even take the time to do. That's the issue with us. We got access to infinite information, but then we argue about it. One of the things that drive me crazy is when it's like a straight up like fact or something that's really simply Googleable, and then people have long drawn out ass arguments about it, and then I'm like, bro, can one of y'all just type it in your phone? Like their arguments did it after that. Like people don't want to do that though. They want to just keep on freaking arguing. Like I'm right and you're wrong. Like, well, let's look it up. Let's see what the books say, and then maybe we can have some arguments about that. But just like blindly arguing about stuff is like, really freaking bothers me. Anyways, I feel like I'm losing y'all. I'm just rambling on. I'm trying to get warmed up, so a little bit of scrolling right quick. I hope nothing crazy pops up on my timeline because there's a lot of really horrible images floating around, and I don't want to get deep. Yeah, I ain't monetized, but I'm trying to get monetized. This first one pops up. It says Tigray genocide, which killed hundreds of thousands at the least, with complete indifference of the world in a media blackout. One would think if people were seeing it live streamed, they would at least say something. Nope. With Palestine, we're seeing what the answer to that is. Tigray genocide. I don't even know what she's talking about. Never in my life have I seen a world-sanctioned genocide in full display, being live tweeted and live streamed, with officials not even hiding their intentions, and people condemning it being attacked in full force. Usually genociders take some effort to hide what they're doing. I think that one thing that people really have to understand is that, you know, we are in an age where information spreads really quickly. You know, we have the videos and the tweets and the pictures. And, you know, it wasn't like that in the past. It was a lot easier to, you know, deny things that's happening on the ground. Now you have people out there with their phone and they're freaking live streaming what's actually happening. And it's like, it's hard to argue with that. So they have to use like different tactics where they, you know, denounce things, or, you know, they kind of like, you know, they try to control the story before the information even like comes out or whatever, to tell you what you're seeing with your eyes. You know what I mean? It's crazy times, man. This conflict could really lead to like a global type of conflict. You know, it's already spreading, and you know, it's like the only thing people have been talking about since last Saturday when the Hamas did that surprise attack on Israel. And you know, when people think about like World War III or whatever, they automatically say, you know, I've heard people say that, you know, it could start in the Middle East, you know, like that could be the root of the beginning of the freaking like a real world war. And it's really kind of scary because, you know, we've been talking about Ukraine, Russia, and China, you know, a lot, you know, and that thing has been, you know, holding down the media for some time. But now this thing has happened. And it's like the whole thing that's been going on there has been going on for the longest. But, you know, with this being so horrible, it has taken like the media by storm, and people's emotions and feelings strongly about it. And, you know, we're going to get into it, but it's like they making it about religion. And, you know, whenever it's religious, you know, people's emotions are really, really high and strong in it, you know. But I don't think that it's as religious as we want to make it out to be. And that's a way to deflect. That's a way to kind of avoid what's actually happening, is by putting it in this box of like Muslims versus Jews or whatever. And it just simplifies everything to a point that is really not factual at all. But it makes it easier to talk about it or whatever. But the other side of it is like, that's how things can spread and really blow up. And I'm afraid that like we're going in that direction. Like this could literally be the turning point that leads us into this new global phase. You know, it's revelations, man. Scary, scary, scary stuff. Let me I'm still trying to warm up and catch my breath here. So what I want to do is play a little bit of Democracy Now!, give myself a chance to kind of get into things here. 15 hours ago, October 13th. Let's play this.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's army has ordered 1.1 million civilians in the northern Gaza Strip to evacuate southwards within just 24 hours from last night, an order the United Nations called impossible without devastating humanitarian consequences. The ultimatum came as Israel massed troops, tanks, and armored vehicles in southern Israel for a widely anticipated ground invasion of Gaza. On Friday, Israel dropped thousands of leaflets across the Gaza Strip, warning Palestinians to leave their homes or risk death. The Norwegian Refugee Council condemned what it called the collective punishment of countless civilians, among them children, women, and the elderly, which it said would amount to the war crime of forcible transfer, unquote. Israel's ultimatum came as its unrelenting bombardment of Gaza continued for a seventh day. This is 14-year-old Janan Alatar, whose uncle was killed and whose family was left homeless by Israeli airstrikes.
It was my sister's wedding, and we were making sweets when the airstrike started. So we left the house. We were packed on top of each other in the car, and we drove directly to the school here. But living in the school is not nice. And my uncle went back to the house, and they bombed it while he was there, and he was killed.
Health officials in Gaza say at least 1,500 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli strikes, including 500 children. Israel reports it dropped 6,000 bombs on Gaza during the first 6 days of the assault. Hospitals are overwhelmed with the wounded and dead and increasingly rationing fuel to operate life-saving medical equipment. Human Rights Watch has confirmed reports of Israel firing white phosphorus munitions during attacks on Gaza and along its border with Lebanon. White phosphorus poses a high risk of excruciating burns and lifelong suffering. Its use as an incendiary weapon in civilian areas is a war crime. Israel denies using white phosphorus. Israel previously used white phosphorus in attacks on the Gaza Strip, including in 2009. Thousands of residents of southern Lebanon have fled their homes near Israel's border amidst fears that cross-border skirmishes between Israel and Lebanese militants could escalate into a war. The exodus continued Thursday as Iran's Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian traveled to Beirut, where he met with Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. Iran has warned the war risks spreading to other fronts if Israel keeps bombing Gaza. Hamas's armed wing, the Al-Qassam Brigade, says 13 of the hostages it took during its weekend attack in southern Israel were killed by Israeli strikes on Gaza over the past day. Meanwhile, Israeli relatives of those slain and kidnapped by Hamas are reeling from the ongoing tragedies. This is Anat Moshe Shoshani, whose grandfather was killed and grandmother taken hostage by Hamas during a raid on their home at their Nir Oz kibbutz.
She's a 72-year-old woman. She's sick. She has heart issues. She watched her husband die right in front of her. And right after, they got her on a motorcycle. And she had to hold the terrorist that just murdered her husband. They were together for over 50 years. They built the kibbutz with their own hands.
Hamas has killed over 1,300 Israelis and taken about 150 hostages. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited Jordan today for talks with King Abdullah and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Blinken will also visit Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Egypt over the weekend as he looks to secure the immediate release of hostages held by Hamas. His trip came after U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the Pentagon is not placing any conditions on its weapons shipments to Israel.
This is a professional military led by professional leadership, and we would hope and expect that they would do the right things in the prosecution of their campaign.
Austin spoke Thursday from NATO headquarters in Brussels. Today, he's in Tel Aviv, where he pledged ironclad U.S. support for Israel during a press conference with Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The French government has banned all rallies in response to the Israeli bombardment and total blockade of Gaza. On Thursday, police in Paris used tear gas and water cannons against pro-Palestine protesters who gathered despite the prohibition.
Unfortunately, we were not able to protest properly because the demonstration was banned, while those in favor of the Israeli cause were authorized. This is not normal under the rule of law.
In the United Kingdom, activists have vowed to take legal action if officials ban the Palestinian flag. British Home Secretary Suella Braverman has urged police forces to use the full force of the law against protesters waving the Palestinian flag, which she said may not be legitimate if it's found to be a sign in support of, quote, terrorism. In Australia, human rights defenders.
It's like just supporting the Palestinian people means you, by default, are supporting Hamas. It's like you're supporting terrorists by supporting Palestine. So you can't even wave the Palestinian flag.
Are warning of the government's escalating repression against actions in support of Palestine. New South Wales Acting Police Commissioner Dave Hudson said officers won't need a reasonable cause to search protesters who attend marches planned in Sydney this weekend.
I urge people considering entering the city on Sunday to reconsider. There are a number of peaceful alternatives for people to voice their opinion in relation to the conflict that's currently going on in Israel and Gaza.
Here in New York, Columbia University closed its campus to the public Thursday in response to two separate demonstrations led by pro-Palestine and pro-Israel student groups. In Massachusetts, the names and photos of several Harvard students who signed a pro-Palestinian letter were displayed on a billboard truck on campus Wednesday with a banner that read Harvard's leading anti-Semites. Some of their names and personal information were also posted online. They were doxxed. That action was organized by the ultra-conservative nonprofit Accuracy in Media. The U.S. House of Representatives remains without a speaker. On Thursday, Republican Congress member Steve Scalise dropped out of the race to replace the ousted Speaker McCarthy after 16 Republicans said they would not vote for Scalise. Supporters of Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan are rallying to shift their party's support to Jordan, who founded the far-right House Freedom Caucus and currently chairs the Judiciary Committee. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre addressed the congressional turmoil Thursday.
What we're seeing is certainly shambolic chaos that we're seeing over there on the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue, and they need to get their act together. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on behalf of the American people.
It looks like former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is also back in the running for his old seat. House legislative business is at a standstill until a new speaker is elected. This includes a bill to keep the government open beyond November 17th and military funding for Israel and Ukraine.
So it's like nothing can get done, you know, because we don't have a majority speaker. Like, you know, it's one of the things that bothers me a lot. I mean, like, you have the drama of, you know, the political turmoils or whatever, but, you know, so, you know, what do they stand to accomplish by doing this? It's like, it results in an inept Congress, you know, it's like they can't get anything done. So, but I think a lot of people feel like whatever the government does is going to be bad. So it's a good thing that they can't get anything done. But, you know, what if they are trying to do something good? They can't do that either.
Prosecutors have announced an additional corruption charge against New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez and his wife, Nadine. The superseding indictment accuses the couple of conspiring to have the senator act as an unregistered agent of the Egyptian government while Menendez was chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The indictments allege Menendez worked to aid Egyptian officials by ghostwriting a letter to fellow senators urging they lift a hold on $300 million of U.S. military aid to Egypt. Menendez is also accused of passing along classified information to Egyptian officials, including details about employees at the U.S. Embassy in Egypt.
Wow, this dude apparently got some connections. Is that where all that money came from that they found in his place? I didn't know senators did ghostwriting. I thought that was what rappers did.
In Colorado, An Aurora jury convicted police officer Randy Redeema of criminally negligent homicide while acquitting officer Jason Rosenblatt in the 2019 killing of Elijah McClain. 23-year-old McClain, a black man, was walking home from a store when he was tackled by police, placed in a carotid hold, and later injected with the powerful sedative ketamine. Elijah's outraged mother, Shanine McClain, told reporters as she left the courtroom, quote, "This is the divided states of America, and that's what happens," unquote.
Man, I remember this story. It's like crazy as hell. I didn't know the police could inject you with anything. Like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? What situation, authorizes a police officer to inject you with something? Like, what the F, bro? Like, how the hell? You're talking about freaking unnecessary force. Like, what authority does the police have to, like, inject you with something?
Sentencing for Redeema, scheduled for January, faces up to 3 years in prison. A third officer and 2 paramedics have also been charged and are awaiting trial. And talks between striking actors and Hollywood studios have been suspended as the two parties remain at loggerheads. SAG-AFTRA said it was presented with an offer that was, quote, shockingly worth less than they proposed before the strike began, unquote. Unionized actors said they will continue fighting for a fair contract despite the setback. This is negotiating committee member Jason George.
Look, we're storytellers, so this is the part of the movie where the hero gets knocked down and you think they're out. This is the part where you double down and you come back and win the day. We all know that and we all believe that in our hearts. So, look, we're actors. We get rejected multiple times a day. We get rejected for stuff we didn't even know we were up for. So our ability to withstand rejection, to withstand adversity, and to stay resilient is more than I would say virtually anybody else in this town.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.com last night. In order.
Yeah, so the writer's strike ended and they got what they wanted, but the actors are still on strike. So it's like all of that stuff seems so little next to the main drama that's going on in the world. Like, that's all that stuff seems so small now. Let me share. I went to Google Maps. I typed Google Maps in, and I typed in Israel, right? And this is what pops up. Am I sharing? So look at this. I typed in Israel, and this is what pops up here. Okay. And you can kind of see. And then I typed in Palestine. And it's like the same. It zooms in a bit on the map, but it's like the same space. And then you don't have anything that really designates Palestine, right? So it's like Palestine is not really a recognized state or whatever. Clearly, through Google Maps, they don't recognize it. You can see the Gaza Strip here, but it's not like designated as Palestine, So, I ask you guys, where is Palestine on this map? You can clearly see Israel. You see Lebanon up here, you see Jordan. Where's Palestine? People that know, but I'm just saying, does Palestine exist? That a lot of the rhetoric that I hear is like, inhuman animals, subhuman terrorists, they don't have a state. They're not human. They're terrorists. So that's the reason why we have the right to treat them the way that we do. They don't deserve to be treated like humans. They can't behave like humans. They don't have a state. Nobody is coming to, help them. No one is looking out for them. No one is recognizing them. I don't know. I want to be careful how I talk about this because this is sensitive stuff. I need to get somebody in here. Where y'all at? Where my people's at? I know I'm late, but let me see. I really want to cover some light stuff and then kind of come back to this. Let's see. Did I do this clip? Let's see if we can find some light stuff in between all of this. Did I cover this?
And be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been. 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 What we can see, what we believe can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. Who we can be unburdened by who we have been. What can be unburdened by what has been. Where we can be unburdened by where we have been and unburdened by where we are right now. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What could be unburdened by what had been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be.
Lord, she's really deep, isn't she? Bruh. So I'm like, where did she get the line from? Like, did somebody write it for her? Whatever. She felt like it was profound as hell, right? She's saying it over and over again everywhere she goes. Like, this is some deep stuff. Like, she takes me as the person who goes home and listens to herself talking and it's like, wow, that person is dropping some fire, dropping jewels. check them out, dropping them jewels. Man. Talk about an empty suit. Come on, Kamala. Do better. Let me read some comments. It says, it's got a meme here, like the Matrix meme. It says, what if I told you that all candidates are not the same? The other one, it says, she stuck to the script. She clearly did that. Another comment, it says, it's all scripted to convince Black folks to remain hopeful, focus on what can be, not bothered, unburdened by the atrocities faced in your past, but what has been. It's a weak attempt at forcing the most powerful Black woman in America to reiterate that messaging. It says it's a weak attempt at forcing. I don't think she's getting, maybe forcing the most powerful Black woman in America to reiterate that message. I think she wants to say this. I think she feels like it's profound. Like, let's read another one. It says, she got that from a fortune cookie. OMG. Another one, it says, I really can't believe she said this so much, that over 3 minutes of footage. Yeah, I can't tell when the loop started over. I had to just stop it because I don't know when it started. Like, listen to her voice first, after a few minutes, it's kind of like, it gets difficult. It's hard, it's painful. Another one, it says, this statement makes no sense at all. Just a word casserole. Like, really, like, what does it mean? What is she trying to say? Like, what is she getting at? Like, what is she saying? Another one says, all the world's a stage. Another one, it says, oh, wow, I didn't know she said it that many times. Geez. Another one, it says, all she is just a love child of Potier's Tang. So they were trying to say Pootie Tang. Somebody else up here had a little meme or gif of Pootie Tang. I don't know what the connection is. Did he say something like that? Another one says, so I'm still not clear on her position. I'm telling you, what are you saying? Another one says, oh, hell no. As above, so below. What is she even talking about? Does anyone else actually forget that she's the VP? Kamala. Let's do this one.
Walmart was very lucky to acquire two really good companies. But of course, they were already unionized. Walmart had no choice.
Because of the union, we get 36 days of vacation a year. Usually people take 3 weeks in the summer, 3 weeks in the spring. It depends. You can split your vacations into 2 or 3 times per year, or even more often if you prefer.
My job is very important, and if I have to fear for my job, it's a bad thing. A very bad thing. If Walmart says we're all a big family and we have nothing to hide, everything's great, then I don't understand why the colleagues in America can't have a workers' council, can't establish a union. I can't understand that.
So I wonder how many people knew this, but it says, why do German Walmart workers have better benefits than American Walmart workers? Good fucking question. You know, look how much vacation time they're talking about they're getting. I know that they're getting paid more too. So it's like, what is the deal? You know, I'm sure they do the exact same work, exact same job. Everything is exactly the same, except they're in Germany and they get all of these, you know, benefits that they don't get here in the United States. And then like the people here in the United States, even the ones that work at Walmart, are gonna advocate against getting these benefits. From what I can see, like it's just really kind of crazy how people vote against their own interests. Like, why is it this way? You know, so the reason why they have these benefits is because they have a union over there, right? So, but you know, Walmart union over here in the United States, they're gonna say you're a freaking socialist, communism, freaking. Let's read some comments. It says, because American unions aren't for the workers, they're for the governing body of the union. You know who benefited from the American unions? The people running them. I've heard that before. Some comment replies from this one. It says, how did it do for the strike? It says 70-hour work weeks are preferable to having to find a second job because your job won't pay overtime. It says, what strike? They got all of that without one. That's the point about unions. They can work for employees. Yeah, that's the way it should work. Another comment, it says, I think it's because everything that would benefit workers is them called socialism by the media and by politicians, and people buy it. Exactly, that's what I was saying. Another comment says, Americans vote against their own best interests all the time. See, they're saying the same stuff I just said. Another comment says, same reason that Amazon and the EU is unionized. Those nations have much higher union participation and therefore much stronger worker rights. And you know, the thing is though, their government backs them up, and then they forces these companies to because they have laws in place that, you know, you have to do certain things. Like everybody has to get certain amount of like benefits, time off, and all of this. It's like it's government mandated regardless of what company that the people work for. We don't have that kind of thing here in the United States. Another comment says, McDonald's workers in Europe have maternity leave, health care, and larger salaries. They have it because the government insists upon it. Boom, that's exactly what I just said. Like, I hadn't read these comments, y'all, so I didn't know that. Anyways, let's go on. Another one, it says, why? Because their country isn't run by corporations like the United States is. United Corporations of America. Another one, it says, for the same reason Europeans eat the same brand food as Americans, but without the poisons, corporate greed. Another one, it says, what's wrong with American workers that accept corporate greed, treating them like less worthy than workers in Europe? Another one, Germany actually learned fascism from Jim Crow laws. How does that fit in the conversation, person? Another comment, it says, worker rights and unions are laws and they are not played with in the EU. Germany, I believe, has some of the toughest protections in the world. People make that happen, not government. Another comment, it says, because America's run by, to put it bluntly, oligarchs. Another comment, it says, same reason ski ticket prices aren't absolutely bashed out there. Every comment for the past 3 days have been this, I'm heated. Ski ticket prices aren't absolutely bashed out there. Oh, I don't really get what he's saying there. Another comment says, oh no, democratic socialism is awful. Venezuela maybe, but Europe not so much. Nothing is free. You work and your tax dollars work for the people, hence healthcare and better quality of life. Not here. Another comment says, I work for Walmart and I made it all the way to management. They have week-long training for management on how to union bus. They explain everything from what to look for at the beginning, all the way through to what to do if they start to come together. Doesn't anyone see how the poisoning of our food and water keeps us from rising up, even against your retailer? Now you know why the government has such a manipulated control over its citizens. Another comment says, unions are awesome for unskilled laborers. They need help because they are helpless. That was kind of mean. Yeah, man, it's crazy, it's crazy, it's crazy, because over here in the States, you talk about this kind of stuff and they say you're a socialist, you're a communist, you know? It's gonna hurt Walmart, it's gonna hurt McDonald's, you know? We have to worry about making sure that Walmart and McDonald's can make as much profits as they can, because that helps the economy. They create more jobs, they put more money in the system, you know, and then they're like, okay, well, just get a better job, you know. It's like, it's only so many jobs out there, man. Like, everybody can't be LeBron James, you know. Everybody can't be Patrick Mahomes. Some people are just regular folks, and so like regular folks don't deserve to have health care on vacation time, maternity leave. I don't know. Here in the States, that's how people feel. Let's do this one.
Boss that like has no idea what's going on or how to run stuff. It's kind of how a lot of people feel about the Federal Reserve right now. Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, gave a speech in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. He's dropping hints that the Fed might raise some interest rates again.
We are prepared to raise rates further.
Basically, the intention of the interest rate hikes is to put more people out of a job.
If you hit your projections, do you know how many people who are currently working, going about their lives, will lose their jobs?
It's not an intended consequence.
But it is, and it's in your report, and that would be about 2 million people.
They think the labor market is too hot, and they want to bring wages down.
It's a very, very good labor market for workers. And it's our job to get it to a better place.
They say the quiet part out loud too much. They would rather the economy be good for big business, I guess. So the Fed's working theory is that if they raise interest rates, now it becomes more expensive to take out a loan. So less people will start businesses and invest in them. So there will be less jobs. That means workers will be competing for the same job, so wages will go down. Therefore, there's less spending into the economy. Demand is down, and therefore prices will go down. But if more people are working, they're also producing more, so supply goes up as well. They don't see it that way. They've kind of admitted that their working theory isn't working.
The relationship between unemployment and inflation became weak. It's become weaker and weaker and weaker. Interest rates, that the neutral interest rate is lower than we had thought. And I think we're learning that the natural rate of unemployment is lower than we thought. So monetary policy hasn't been as accommodative as we had thought.
Whoopsies. You ever have a boss?
Yeah, man. It's like, what they're really saying is they need more unemployment. They need more people that are searching for jobs. That way they can push the wages down because they have more people to pick from, and they can force people to take incomes that's lower than what they would want to take because the competition is so high, and that's what they really want. That's what drives these huge profits that they get is by not paying people, like paying people the least that they could pay them, and they can't do that if they have so many people who, if they have a lot of jobs to choose from, then they're not going to take that job that pays them trash, so put it in a position where you have more unemployed people, and people have to pay their bills, and they're struggling, they're starving. They're going to take the first job that they can get, and they're going to take whatever salary they're going to pay. Really, really horrible. So that's really what's happening. Let's read this. It says, Perfect Union posted this, that Jerome Powell, it's a very, very good labor market for workers, and it's our job to get it to a better place. Really, what does that mean? Get it to a better place for who? For the workers? Definitely not. You're talking about a better place for the corporations. Better place for the corporation means less, a horrible job market, Let's read some more. It says Jerome Powell is very aware and clear on how to run the Fed. It's a structure that's run for the class interests against us, the working class. We must be clear on who our enemies are instead of extending false grace to them and frame their actions as don't know how to run stuff. This is class warfare, period. And a lot of times that's what people say is like they don't know or whatever. And I be saying that all the time. Like, these people aren't dumb. Like, they don't get into the positions where they're in by not knowing things. They know stuff, So it's intentional, the stuff that they're doing, What did he say? We must be clear on who our enemies are. That's another part. And I've been screaming this for the longest on this show. It's like, class solidarity is what, we need to be looking at. And we need to know who are the ones that are our neighbors, who are the ones that are in the same boat with us, but we tend to look out for those people who are not looking out for us. It seems like everybody, is waiting for their turn to be the oligarch or whatever, they're waiting for their turn to be the CEO or whatever. It's like, one day I'll be one of them. So, I'm going to defend them, like the stuff with the tax loopholes. It's like, you could just use the tax loopholes too. Just create an LLC and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, I don't have $10,000 laying around. I can't do that. It's like, well, you need to work harder, grind, hustle culture or whatever, and it's like, that keeps things in the same position that they're in, and it'll keep being that way as long as people are thinking that way. It's like, one day I'm going to win the lottery type of way of thinking, Like, what if you never win the lottery, bro? If you don't win the lottery, can the workers get paid enough to pay their bills and get vacation time and get maternity leave? Let's read another one. It says, economists be like, corporations are price gouging under the guise of inflation and making record profits. So the obvious solution is to make workers unemployed. I mean, that's the whole thing with the, inflation, some of the inflation is actually real, but there's a part of it that's just not, when you're looking at these companies making so much money, if it's just the inflation, then why are their profits so high? That doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense, really. If things are costing more for them, then why are they still making so much money, making way more than they were making before? The math is not mathing. A huge part of the inflation is price gouging. And they've been using this, ever since COVID, they figured a new way. And then people are just accepting it. During COVID, I understand because there was too much going on. People don't really understand, and then they could just slide the little price hikes in there, and people are just like, oh, it's a pandemic. So that's the reason why things are the way that they are. But now that the pandemic has, quieted down a lot and the prices are still up, why haven't they come down? And then they're like, oh, it's because of inflation. Okay, it's because of inflation. Well, then why you have record profits then? Explain that to me. Another comment, it says, break up monopolies and stock buybacks and Citizens United fixed it for you. Another comment, it says, it's a very, very good labor market for workers, and it's our job to get to a better place. For exploiters, I mean employers, cough, cough. Another one, it says, economists are petrified of the idea that more money in the hands of people who immediately spend it, i.e. people for whom money is scarce, i.e. low and middle class people, will result in a thriving economy. That's the part I really don't understand. Like, it's like they're shooting themselves in the foot, because I understand them wanting to make their profits. I get that. That makes sense. But if you create a society of people who are just making enough money to pay their bills, they don't have any discretionary spending in their budget, then who's going to buy all this stuff that y'all are selling? We have a consumer-based economy, we have an economy based on like people buying stuff, and if everybody is broke and is just paying their bills, then who's going to buy their stuff? At some point, whole thing is just going to fall off the cliff. People with money don't spend frivolously, their money is in the bank. They're flipping it. They're investing it, It's the poor and middle class that really drive the economy. So, but if the poor and middle class are just getting by, then who's going to buy your M&Ms? Who's going to buy your cookies? Come on, y'all. It really doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't get what is their end game? What are they trying to accomplish? It's going to fall off a cliff. That's inevitable. Like, and I'm not an economist, but that's simple math. Paying people a decent wage is good for everyone. It's good for everyone. Another comment, it says, the people who have the Fed on their leash are just trying to clap back at the working class for so much organizing recently. The reason the cost of living is so high is not wages, and they know it. It's just greed. Another comment, it says, part of this is that so many monopolies have allowed for price gouging. I know a lot of people don't like Elizabeth Warren, but who else is talking about breaking up these huge corporations? Yeah, and this is what we say on the show all the time, bust up these monopolies, that's what the answer is, and like you said, it makes it easy for them to price fix when you only have 2 and 3 companies in each sector. They can do a really quick Zoom meeting and chop it up and say, yeah, this is what the price is going to be this week. It's not even complex for them. It's really, really simple. But if you had a bunch of companies in each sector, that would be way more complicated. And somebody's not going to be on board. Somebody's going to undercut them. They got to have everybody on board for it to work. But when it's one company that owns like everything, they don't have to worry about it. Another comment that says, I could only focus on how cool her hair is. Need to watch this again. Yeah, a lot of these influencers, they say good stuff, but then they look really good too. So that's why people watch them. Maybe if I was more attractive, I'd get more views. Should get on here and take off my shirt or something. I don't think nobody wants to see me without a shirt. There's another one that says, in other words, workers have too much power and are unionizing at unprecedented rates, which is really bad for our corporate interests. Yeah, corporations are thriving and are banking billions in profits, but they may not exceed Wall Street's expectations next earnings period. And if they don't, then think of the executives who won't get their millions and millions in stock compensations. Because the whole thing is always about last year, how much we made last year, what were the profits last year, profits over last year. That's how they compare everything, and that's how they get their bonuses, So they have to have this exponential growth model is what all the corporations are on, So by any means necessary, we want to do better than last year, do better than last quarter, or whatever, So that's what it's all about. But I don't understand, again, like the math doesn't add up, because you can't have exponential growth. At some point, your growth, and what's wrong with leveling out? What's wrong with leveling out and maintaining, and just continuing to provide your services or whatever, and have the workers making fair wages, the CEOs still making good money, the investors, everyone's still making good money. What's wrong with leveling out? Why do you have to have this continual exponential growth model? Like, you can't, that's impossible. Like, at some point, the growth has to stop, it can't, it's only so many consumers. It's only so many people that can buy stuff. It's only so much money that's even in the world economy. Let me read another one. It says, yeah, I guess that'll happen when you ignore the fact that inflation is being primarily driven by corporate profits. Guess your models don't work when you need to ignore inputs that you don't want to see. Big surprise. Can y'all hear me? I don't have nobody in here. Another comment, it says, slimy eels are best served on sushi. Eat the rich. Another comment, it says, I love Elizabeth Warren. It's a damn shame that those who should be in power seldom are. Another comment, raising interest rates is the only way to kill off inflation. This is the only thing to do. The quicker and harsher they are about it, the sooner rates can go down again. I guess, that's what they're saying or whatever. And that does make sense. It's just that, how come we can't just force these companies to not price gouge? If I or you was, if it was a hurricane or something, horrible event that happened, and people need water or whatever it is, gasoline, and I went and bought up all the gasoline and then I was selling it at an insane price, they would take me to jail for that. It's illegal. It's against the law, and it's shitty. So how come these corporations can do it on a massive scale and have no repercussions? I think that that's one of the biggest problems, is that, like, besides busting up these companies, these people are doing things that are illegal, against the law. And how come we can never hold any of these people accountable? It's like, it's a corporation, it's not a person. So then we can only fine them or whatever, and that's just bullshit. Because you got the CEOs, the CFOs, these people who seen the reports and signed off on that shit. They knew what they were doing. You can hold these people criminally accountable, and that's what will do. That's the only thing that'll start deterring this thing and sending it into another direction. If these people were afraid of going to jail, they're not, because they know they'll never get touched. Worst case scenario for them is they get in trouble, they get fined too much, and then they could just file for bankruptcy, change the name of the company, and do it all over again next year under a different name. Another comment says, these people have addresses. See, that's where we're getting to. That's where we're getting to. People are going to start showing up at folks' house. If the government or whatever, the law enforcement, don't hold these people accountable and take them to jail, then people are going to take it upon themselves. Are y'all out there? Am I talking to myself? Let's read this. It says, I always wonder how men survive when they are broke. Like, who gives you guys money? How do they feed? Who holds you down till things get better? May God bless all the hardworking men. Let me read that again. I always wonder how men survive when they are broke. Like, who gives you guys money? How do you feed? Who holds you down till things get better? May God bless all the hardworking men. I remember when I was reading this meme and it struck me, and I felt like they were talking about me because that's the position I'm in. Like, no one ever comes to my aid. I have to be very conservative in the way that I move, because if I trip and fall, no one's going to help me get up. So I got to make sure that I have my own back all the time. And it's like, it's frustrating and exhausting, you know? And it's like, right, because, you know, you go out on a date or whatever, as the guy, you're expected to pay, you know, anything that's going on in the household that costs anything, you're expected to pay, you know. People come to you and ask you for money when they're struggling. They're trying to make it to the end of the month or whatever. So it's like, you're supposed to be that rock. You're supposed to stand firm and you're supposed to take care of business or whatever. So, but it leads to a lonely existence. It leads to my kids say I'm lame and I'm boring, you know, but you know what I always come back to is like, it's not easy to be boring, you know. It's that roller coaster ride that you could go on with the lights getting cut off, no Wi-Fi, your phone is off or whatever, getting evicted, having to move and all of that, you know. That's going to jail for like doing illegal stuff, like selling drugs or something because you need to make money and stuff like that. It's easy to fall into that, you know. Keeping things maintained and kind of like drama free is difficult, you know. So I pride myself on being boring and lame, you know. It's not easy. It's really difficult, actually. You know, it's really my little boring, lame life. It takes a lot of effort and discipline. You know, I got to get up. I have to get up. I got to grind. I got to take care of business week after week, month after month. If I don't, then the bills don't get paid. Things don't get taken care of. There's no one else. If I don't take care of it, it doesn't get done. So, yeah, I'm lame. I'm boring. I don't barely go out. I don't barely do much stuff because it's risky. And I take fewer and fewer risks because I can't afford something to happen and things to fall apart. It only takes a little bit. One little thing happens, and then the unfortunate series of events, you know, can land me in a really, really, really horrible situation. And I'm always thinking about that. It keeps me up at night sometimes. Let me read some comments. It says, either our moms or we starve until we get back up. Yep. My mom comes to me for money. So, I mean, every now and then I probably get a couple dollars from her. But yeah, that doesn't work for me. Another one that says, we don't complain. We just keep things to ourselves and grind, except for some who don't have shame. And there's nothing wrong with not having shame. Some of us, our ego, just to hug, to ask anyone for help. We always figure things out at the end. Sometimes it takes time, but we're always hopeful. You know, you know, and I'm not much of a hugger, but I could use a hug sometimes, you know. I really could, you know. And as far as like crying, like that shit doesn't happen, you know. I get sad, I get depressed, angry, or whatever, but no tears. I just got to figure it out. Like this dude just said, we got to figure it out. And sometimes it takes time, and we go through times where we're in real struggle mode. And I think when I'm in real struggle mode, like I just don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to talk on the phone. I don't want to watch TV. I don't want to fucking do nothing. My mind is just going 100 miles an hour, trying to figure out how I'm gonna freaking get through this. And I just kind of just shut myself off in my room. And it's like, because every time I leave out of the house, it costs money. So don't go anywhere, you know, chill. Anyways, Another one, it says, there's a reason why 1 in 4 Black men will be incarcerated at some point in their lives, and why Black men are the fastest growing demographic for suicide. Our worth and worthiness to be shown love and respect has now been completely tied to how much money we have. The truth is, nobody cares when we are at our lowest. And I don't really know why they said Black men in that, because I think that that works for all men. Nobody cares. And us being depressed, you know, we're not supposed to be depressed because we're supposed to be strong. And it's like being depressed or having mental health issues is like a sign of weakness or whatever. And then that's what leads to suicide, because it just becomes a moment where you just didn't have enough. And, you know, I'm going to tell you where I work at, I don't want to give too much away, but there's a hotel on the same property. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was on my way to work. They had cones everywhere. They redirected the cars around because there was a body in the courtyard. And it was a man. It was a man. He had a wife and kids. They were together at the hotel. And yeah, he jumped off the ledge, like the 5th floor, I want to say, of the hotel. And yeah, he took his own life. And this is something that actually really happened, you know. And like a certain amount of details came around because, you know, rumors, people be talking, you know, but I got to be careful how I talk about this because I don't want to freaking reveal, you know, make the hotel look bad or my job look bad or whatever the hell. But I think what happens is opportunity, right? At my school, last semester, 2 people took their life from jumping off a building, and it was within like a month time, 2 months time. Like they was really close together. Since then, they've closed that building. The students don't have access to that building. That building, it's an older building, and it has like ledges on it, like open area, like ledges where you can kind of just, you know, you could jump off. And it's like that hotel that I'm talking about is like that too. It has like the rooms, they have like a balcony, and you can go out on that balcony. It has like a little ledge there. And what I was talking about was like most hotels that you go to, it's all completely closed off. Like you can't jump off or whatever. Like the access isn't there. And then they don't give you access to the roof. And I believe there's reasons for that. So like it's like opportunity, right? It's like you don't plan to do this or whatever, but you know, whatever, you're going through it at a moment, you're having a moment, and then while you're having that moment, you also have the opportunity, and so you take advantage of that opportunity, you know. So like I say, they build these buildings in a way to keep people from being able to do these kinds of things. But these buildings, some buildings, you know, it's not that way. So, you know, when somebody is on the edge, they're stressing out, and then they have the opportunity like that, you know, then they make a spur of the moment decision, you know. It's really sad. I think that we need to understand that, you know, right now we're talking about men and their stress and, you know, all the stuff that they go through. You know, like I say, I don't think these people planned to do this. It was just like they had a moment and the opportunity was there and they just did it, you know. It's like you can't go back from that. Anyways, I don't know what to say. Another comment, it says women provide for men. Since when? Where? Another comment that says, how are men failing in a system that was designed for them to succeed? Another comment says, we just chill with friends and keep grinding. Never be alone when broke. That's a tantamount to depression. Another comment says, why would he wait until he is broke? Nah, red flag. See, that's it right there. There's no sympathies. Another one says, drink water and walk to work until payday. Telling you, man, eat noodles. Another comment says, God bless you for even thinking about it. Another comment says, sometimes you just hold on to hope and faith in God until better days come. Another one, we work, go to our parents' house, food pantry, or eat like you in jail and eat filling foods, and we tough it out till we do better. And we'll sleep in cars, shower at truck stops, etc. till things get better. Another comment that says, oh, this is easy. First, y'all have to understand what is broke and what is poor. Men stay broke, but women keep themselves poor. What the hell does that mean? Another comment that says, like this now, self, I am broke, but I thank God I am alive. You know, that's what we have to do, though, you know, and then I literally do this, you know, when I get to the point where I'm feeling really down, I start, I don't know, I think I read it in a book somewhere where they said that, you know, you start, you count the things that are good in your life, you know what I mean? The things that you're happy about, the things that make, you know, that you love, you know, things that you appreciate. And that's what you do. You go to those things and you look at them and you be like, okay, you know, okay, things are kind of messed up, you know, I'm struggling with these bills or whatever, you know, but then it's like, I got a family that loves me, you know, daughters, you know, I got my show, I do that, and I really enjoy doing that. You know, I go to school, I'm working towards something, you know, I feel like I'm a good person, you know, I feel like I try to help people, you know, people look up to me, you know. I make like a list of the things that kind of like I'm proud of or whatever, things that make me happy. And that really does help. And I think that's what you should do, you know, because you can make a list of the things that are effed up, and then you make a list of things that's good, you know, and you're just like, if you're not here no more, then what about the people that depend on you, you know, the things that you're trying to accomplish, you know, all of that stuff is over, you know. So that kind of keeps me going. Another comment, it says, women help broke men to survive. 2, women give broke guys money. 3, women feed broke men. 4, women hold broke men down, hoping that things get better. 5, may God bless all the hardworking women. I guess that hasn't been mine. I think it depends on the kind of person you are too, because the man that we're talking about here is not the same guy who sleeps on women's couches and she's feeding him and stuff like that. Like that hasn't been my situation, like, ever. I've never been that guy, and I don't think they're the same guy. You know, the guy that's the hard rock guy, you know, the stand-up guy, the guy that everybody depends on. He's never that guy who's you know, women are paying for stuff for him. Like, you know, those guys who women pay for stuff for them all the time, they're couch surfing and all of that. These guys are like that all the time. They never are, you know, are together. They never are together. From what I can see, I mean, like, I could be wrong, you know, people do go through things. Now, if you're in like a serious relationship, like it's like a marriage or whatever, you know, things go up and down. It happens. You know, the woman falls off and the man takes care of business. The man falls off and the woman takes care of her business. If we're in a long-term relationship, that's how it should be. You know, we love each other. We care for each other. We're trying to get somewhere. We're not going to abandon somebody just because they're going through a rough patch. But it's different, you know, when it's the guy who, you know, like I say, couch surfs, get from one female to another, you know. That's a different situation. Another comment says, judging by this tweet, it won't be her holding bruh down. Yeah, man, I don't know, bro. Another comment that says, either our moms or we starve until we get back up. All these people talking about their moms, they must be young. Hold on. Another comment that says, we don't complain, we just keep things to ourselves and grind, except for some who don't have shame. What the fuck? Did I start over? Anyways, let's move on. Can y'all still hear me? Anyways. Yeah, man. Give your guy friends a hug, bro. Give them a hug. Maybe chunk them some cash out. You know, buy them a beer. You know, we don't like to ask for help. So we're not going to ask for help. So just chunk them some money on his cash app randomly. Buy him a beer randomly. Trust me, he'll appreciate it. Let's see this one. It says, breaking, the IRS has hit Microsoft with a demand for $28.9 billion in back taxes, plus penalties and interest. Major tax dodgers have been able to rig the system for years. It's time for every big offender to pay up. I hope this is true. Like, I saw this, but I haven't seen any media coverage on it, and I haven't had time to really just dig in it. But I really hope this is true. I really hope this is true. The IRS has hit Microsoft with a demand for $28.9 billion in back taxes, plus penalties and interest. They go in on us if we freaking do our taxes and we, you know, leave out a couple $1,000s or something, you know, or we haven't done our taxes in a few years because we know we owe each time. My dad was like that. Like, he itemized every year, and, you know, he carried around these damn receipts all the time. And I would be in the car with him every year I don't know if you guys experience this, but being in the line at the post office on the last day that you can file your taxes, it's always a long ass line. They have to take your thing. So it's a long ass line for everybody to file their taxes on the last day that you can file your taxes. And my dad would do this like every year. And I'm like, I don't really understand this. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Why the hell you don't just do it earlier? Like, why are you waiting to literally the last second to do it? But I'm older now, and I understand that when you like itemize and stuff like that, you owe. And that's the reason why you don't want to do it early, because you got to pay them. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you wait to the last second because you have to pay, you know, and get your money together or whatever so you can pay, you know, and all that stress of keeping up with those receipts and all of that. It's like I'm not that guy. I do the 1040 EZ. I go to freaking H&R Block or whatever, and I let them do the taxes. And I am not that guy. I'm not organized enough for that. And plus, I don't really have any businesses. Like, he had a business and all of that. So, like, you know, and he would write off all kinds of stuff. Like, I understand all of that, but like I say, if we didn't, and that's what he did too. I remember one time he went like a few years without filing his taxes. And he had to do all of that shit at one time with all of these damn receipts and shit. A fucking headache. Why would you put yourself through that? But anyways, we go a couple years without filing our taxes or whatever, the IRS is going to be up in our anal cavity. You know what I mean? And it's probably only a few $1,000s. You know what I'm saying? So, but then you have these corporations are tax dodging like left and right. And here they're talking about $28.9 billion. Like, that's a lot of money, like that they could be using for social services or whatever the hell they use the damn taxes for. Like, and then we just had every year we have this default freaking argument, and we're talking about fiscal responsibility, and we're all like, we don't have the money to fund the government. Right now, they just passed that thing where it only went for like 45 days. So they're going to have to come back and do it again so that they can fund the government for the next year, and then they're talking about we don't have enough money or whatever. We got to put a cap on the spending or whatever. So, but then if we was collecting the taxes that we should be collecting, then would we still be in the same boat? Like, that's the thing I'm arguing, because they talk about spending. Okay, spending is one thing, but what about receivables? Okay, what about receiving, on that side? If you're receiving enough, then the spending is not as much. Like, it's still an issue, but how much you got coming in, has a huge impact on how much you can go out. You know what I mean? So, but if you're not focusing on what's coming in and you're just focusing on spending, then you're only looking at half of the thing. Like, if you ran a business, you're gonna be looking at your receivables. And and I used to work in a medical office. I was a medical assistant, and making sure that those invoices got paid was a part of my job. And people that have to pay invoices, they always want to wait to the last second or whatever. And you calling these people up and you're like, hey, you got an outstanding invoice here. You want to take care of that today? Like, that was a big deal. Like, because you needed to end of the month, end of the year, that shit needs to be clear. So, but freaking our government don't run the business like a normal person would run a business on taking care of those receivables. Am I crazy? This one, it says 11 years ago, the IRS, tired of seeing the country's largest corporations fearlessly stash billions in tax havens, decided to take a stand. The agency challenged what it saw as an epic case of tax dodging by one of the largest companies in the world, Microsoft. It was the biggest audit by dollar amount in the history of the agency. Microsoft has shifted at least $39 billion in U.S. profits to Puerto Rico, where the company's tax consultants, KPMG, had persuaded the territory's government to give Microsoft a tax rate of nearly 0%. Microsoft had justified this transfer with a ludicrous sounding deal. It had sold its most valuable possession, its intellectual property, to an 85-person factory it owned in a small Puerto Rican city. So that's how they did it. Let's read some, and if one of us did something like that, then boom, they're going to be on our ass. They're going to freaking bankrupt us. Let's read this. It says, this is a whole lot of healthcare and school lunches. You suck when I cheer for the IRS. You suck when I cheer for the IRS. I'll get that part. It says, now jail the people who decided they could get away with this, both the execs of Microsoft and KPMG. Boom, 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 boom. Exactly. Because they would take us to jail for doing this exact same thing. That's what I'm saying. If they really want to fix this stuff, they need to be holding people literally accountable. You can't just be fining these companies. They're just going to keep on doing it. Lock their ass up. Let's read a reply to this one. It says, upside down naked crucifixion. Another one, it says, or make them earn only minimum wage, no benefits for the rest of their days. See how well their trickle-down economic works for them then. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Another comment, it says, meanwhile, Puerto Rico has been suffering at the hands of colonists. How come I can't say that word? Corporations without electricity or clean water for months and months on end after devastating hurricanes, because their infrastructure has been ground zero for companies scamming countless dollars that should be going to help the people of Puerto Rico and not into the pockets of these thieves. It's unconscionable. Yeah, man, we talked about this in a class, one of my classes. We went pretty heavy because I don't know when it was. Puerto Rico was in the news. I guess it was when that Hurricane Maria happened, and they didn't have electricity for the longest, and then they found out that it was like one company was doing electricity over there. Anyways, let's read another one. It says, Musk, Zuckerberg, Bezos, Koch family, Trump's, all of them next, please. Another one, it says 39 billion in pure profit, and they're capable of just sloshing it around without consequences, not even needing it to operate. Meanwhile, Connecticut fed every single child, teenager, K through 12 breakfast and lunch for a full year with 60 million. So they said 60 million. Connecticut fed every child, teenager, K through 12, breakfast and lunch for a full year with 60 million. So when we're talking about 39 billion, I mean, that's their profit. So that's not going to be, but how much, let's see, did it say how much? Go back. 28 billion in back taxes. That's a lot of freaking, like that first comment said, that's a lot of school lunches right there. Another comment says, now do all of them. Another one that says, wow, teachers get to deduct $250. No wonder corporations fund the Republicans and why they are upset the IRS is now better funded. Man, y'all stop pointing fingers at the Republicans because it's the Dems too. Both parties. Stop picking a side. Recognize you got corruption in your government. If you keep pointing on one side or the other, then you're missing the whole thing. And then the Dems get in there and they do the same thing. And then you're like making excuses for them. And then the same thing continues. And that's what I say all the time. It's like things don't change. We have this pendulum that swings back and forth through the Republicans in charge, Democrats in charge, Republicans in charge, Democrats in charge, Republican president, Democratic president. And the results for the American people is the same year after year after year after year. Another one that says, one of the many reasons the U.S. continues to keep the world's oldest colony, corporate interests. Another one that says, oh, I'm sure it was an honest accounting mistake considering they probably used MS money to track their finances. Okay, I see what you did there. That's pretty funny. Another one, wait until the government buys Windows 12. The ransomware isn't a bug, it's a feature. Another one that says, interesting. What about Amazon, Procter & Gamble, Big Oil, Big Pharma, and all the tax cheating conglomerates? Doesn't the right consider Microsoft woke left? Yeah, well, I don't know what they're really trying to say with the Microsoft woke left, but thinking about this is like just this one company, we're talking about 28.9 billion. You throw in Amazon, Procter & Gamble, then how much more is that could be on the books that they could be using to build better schools, libraries, fund the services that are missing funding, like Social Security, Medicare, the SNAP benefits. Like, how about just give people a refund, like some money right into people's pockets that's been paying their taxes and doing the right thing for years and years and years? How about just cut them a little check? It won't be like the money just came out of nowhere, like a handout. It won't be like the COVID checks. It'll just be like, straight that the money comes out of this fund. Another comment, it says, what IRS going to do with that money? How about throw it at the climate corps or to help end homelessness? That is definitely a question. Like, what are they going to do with the money? They're going to probably F it off. And I get that argument why people don't want to pay taxes, because they feel like their tax dollars don't really benefit them in any way. And that's a fair ass argument. I ain't going to lie. But look, we had that whole fight related to universal health care, that whole argument. Do y'all not think that this money would be enough to fund some universal health care so everybody can go to the doctor? Maybe not forever, maybe just 1 year, 5 years, maybe just 10 years of it until the money runs out. Who would have a problem with that? You'd have a problem with that? If your taxes don't go up at all, nothing changes at all for you, and you got universal health care, you could just go to the doctor. And it's funded by all of this money that's been, these corporations been dodging paying their taxes. Who would have a problem with that? Another comment that says, That's a U.S. territory, so still on the hook for taxes, right? Claw all that money. How more IRS agents armed with tax codes and calculators take down the next biggest company? Use that money the same way. Wash, rinse, repeat. Get them all compliant. I'm with it. Another one. Deloitte is Microsoft's auditor. KPMG advises her. It's complicated. Good luck unwinding that, IRS. Ooh. See, this is the problem. We have these same people who, this revolving door that goes from the person that sits on the board of a corporation to a person that's a congressperson to a person that becomes a lobbyist. Like, these end up being all the same people. They leave out of office, they become a lobbyist or on the board. They leave from the board or they become a congressperson or a lobbyist. And it just keeps going in the circles. And then they have family members, their father, their son, or whatever, their wife or their husband is the other person, and they switch back and forth. And it's just, this is corruption, man. So it is a whole mess. Where are you guys? I want to talk about Israel and Palestine, but I've been kind of avoiding the topic because that's all the news have been covering, and I'm kind of just exhausted with it. Let's see. Which one is this one? Okay, yeah. We can't avoid this topic. Let's see, hold on, y'all. Give me a minute. I think I got another one in here that's not that before we start going into it. Oh yeah, this one. Let's look at this right quick. Look, check it out. It says, can y'all hear me? I have to check this every now and then. Oh yeah, this one. My mic jumps out and it doesn't give me any warning. Let's read this. It says, the rich industrialist was horrified to find the fisherman lying beside his boat smoking a pipe. Why aren't you out fishing? Asked the industrialist. Because I have caught enough fish for today. Why don't you catch some more? What will I do with them? You could earn more money. Then you could have a motor fitted to your boat to go into deeper waters and catch more fish. Then you would have enough money to buy nylon nets. These would bring you more fish and more money. Soon you would have enough money to own 2 boats, maybe even a fleet of boats. Then you would be a rich man like me. What would I do then? Then you could sit back and enjoy life. What do you think I'm doing right now? Yeah, so this is really the whole freaking thing right here. And what we're sold on is this idea that making more and more money is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to hoard cash. You're lazy if you don't do that, you know? You're supposed to stay on the freaking hamster wheel basically till you die, you know? And use all your waking hours in making money. You know, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Leave a legacy for your children and grandchildren or whatever, you know? But this little meme right here kind of sums the whole thing up because he's like, it says the whole point of this guy doing everything, the industrialist, to push this guy to work harder and make more money. He's like, the point is you can sit back and enjoy life. And then the guy's like, what do you think I'm doing right now? It's like, I'm already enjoying life. I don't need to do all of that. I don't need to make more fish. I don't need to have a bigger boat. I'm good. I'm enjoying life right now. So the industrialist guy, he's not enjoying life because he's freaking trying to make more money, you know? And work-life balance is a thing that I think people are becoming more aware of ever since COVID, you know? Spending more time with family, you know, taking vacations, actually literal, real vacations, you know, just not spending so much time at work, like the commute, going back to work and forth to work, you know, You know, how many hours of our day is used towards, you know, making money, and how many hours of our day are used doing things that we want to do, like create things, you know, just reading, you know, just learning something new, you know, not learning something new related to your job because, you know, that's going to make you more money. Just learning something new because you want to learn that thing, you know, learn another language or whatever, just like learn about somebody's culture in another part of the world, just like appreciating art, you know, like I say, creating things, just contemplating life, you know, meditating, you know, or just relaxing. So this is it right here. It says, what would I do with it then? He says, you could sit back and enjoy life. He says, what do you think I'm doing now? Because when he rolled up on him, he said, the beginning of it says, the rich industrialist was horrified to find the fisherman lying beside his boat smoking a pipe. Like, why aren't you out fishing? Like, because I caught enough for today. Why don't you catch some more? What would I do with it then? Yeah, you know, but you're going to, here in the United States, those comments, they're going to say you're a lazy hippie. You lazy hippie, go make some more money. Let's do this one.
Did not earn their billions by working harder than everyone else because it's not actually possible to work billions of times harder than another person. Unless Jeff has the time distorting powers of the Flash, he can't possibly work that much harder than you or me. In fact, he probably works less because Bezos famously spends most of his morning doing what he calls puttering, then saunters into his first meeting at the leisurely hour of 10 a.m. And to be clear, that all sounds great. But you know who's already been rising and grinding for 6 hours by the time Jeff finishes the Wordle? The everyday people who work in his warehouses. The truth is, billionaires like Bezos actually got rich because they figured out how to squeeze work out of other people, pay them peanuts, then keep the profits for themselves. Jeff's warehouse employees are forced to endure such long and grueling hours that OSHA warns working for Amazon could give you a musculoskeletal disorder. The turnover rate in Amazon warehouses is 150% a year. That's right, Amazon literally churns through their entire workforce in under 8 months. What is orientation day at Amazon like? All right, everyone, look to your left, look to your right. In a year, none of those people will be here. And neither will you. And neither will I. We'll all be dead in a ditch. Not Jeff, though. He'll be making blueberry pancakes with Sierra. Billionaires like Jeff Bezos did not earn their billions by working harder than everyone else because it's not actually possible to work billions of times harder than another person. Unless Jeff has the time distorting powers of the Flash, he can't possibly work that much harder than you or me. In fact, he probably works less because Bezos famously spends most of his morning doing what he calls puttering, then saunters into his first meeting at the leisurely hour of 10 a.m.
Yeah, so we've been sold a freaking dream when it comes to this shit. I swear to God. Let me read this. It says, new video essay, how unions crush capitalists, up on YouTube. We talk billionaires, hustle culture, labor history, and how to unionize. It says, you know, the French invented a way to deal with Jeff Bezos. Starts with a G and ends with the O team. Another one, it says, every time I think about having that much money, I legitimately can't figure out why you'd hoard it. You have enough to live comfortably forever and more than enough to actually solve world problems. It's not doing anything, just sitting. So why hoard it? Because you're brainwashed. Another comment, it says, I've worked for Amazon multiple times. I'm never going back. Literally OSHA violations in the warehouses. Another one, it says, he invented a platform that is used by almost everyone around the world. I absolutely agree. The working conditions need to be way better. And Amazon and Bezos can afford to be pinnacle of work environments. The union busting and intimidation is unacceptable. However, to say he didn't work hard to earn his money with a company that ran in the red for over a decade is false. That's not what he was saying. He said he wasn't working billions of times harder than the next person. That's what he says. So it's impossible to do that. Another comment, it says socialist rhetoric. There goes those comments. That's what always comes up. Another comment says, please run for office. You're smart, articulate, and natural leader. Another one says, work smarter, not harder. Another one says, I have come to the conclusion that we have worshipped money so much that capitalism has manifested into some sort of God that needs human sacrifice to keep going. Sometimes that is actual blood shed through war, gang violence, etc. However, most of the time it's slow and insidious through labor exploitation, environmental destruction, mental health, physical health, chemical exposure such as PFAS. We are all experiencing it, and it's literally eating us alive. Through overconsumption, we are like the snake eating its own tail, and it's so exhausting to sit and comprehend that we much rather disassociate. Man, I think that's a really freaking insightful ass comment right there. Let me post this. That is insightful right there. He says, I've come to the conclusion that we worship money so much that capitalism has manifested into some sort of God. And that's what I think, you know, it's written on the money. It says, in God we trust. Are they talking about God, or are they talking about the money itself? You trust in the money. That's what gives it its value, right? Because the piece of paper doesn't have any value at all. You know, your trust in it is what gives it its value. Your belief in it is what gives it its value. The belief, and then the other person believing in it is what allows you to exchange it for goods or services. So I don't think that's a huge stretch to think of it as like a religion, capitalism as a religion, you know, and think of it as people worshiping money, because they look at the person who is rich as God has favored them, you know, and the person that's poor, he must have did something wrong in his life. He must be a sinner, because otherwise God will bless him with riches. So are we talking about God? We're talking about money. Another comment says, the people in the warehouses work many times harder than he does. Truly. Thank you, Adam. Another one. There's a billboard I drive past regularly that advertises for jobs at the local warehouse, and it literally says no interview required. And I just can't help thinking how shitty a job has to be for there to be zero conditions for hiring. Like, yeah, I already knew it was a shitty job and unsafe conditions and everything, but that's their hiring practices have gotten to a point where it's basically, do you have a pulse? Great. It's just so awful. Another one that says, no billionaires typically become billionaires due to market value chart changes. Another one, not capitalists. We don't have that. Capitalism runs on years of goods and or services for goods and or services. We have corporatism, a perversion of capitalism when government gets involved. And that's so true, because people always be talking about the free market. I'm like, what free market? If it was a free market, then those banks would have went out of business in 2008. The auto industries, those big auto companies would have went out of business. If it was a free market, then we wouldn't be subsidizing Walmart and Amazon. It's not a free market. It's not. They tell us about socialism and communism or whatever. Meanwhile, they're getting the checks, free checks for doing nothing. Oh, they created jobs. That's what you do in a business. Why should you get rewarded for that? You're already making profits. That's your reward. Get the F out of here. Another one that says, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. Tell the workers why they didn't make the Amazon first and why none of them making any startup. And it could be true they are squeezing their workers. So if it's true and it's bad working for them, no one should do it till it gets fixed. Even if one person do it, that means it's still not bad enough. Well, I mean, there's some truth to that, to this comment. I ain't gonna lie. But what drives people to work these jobs is because they have to pay these bills. You know, they have to pay the bills. So they got to do it some kind of way, you know. What did he say? Tell the workers why they didn't make, and he says, why none of them making any startups? Well, I mean, how are you going to compete with these big corporations? And you get smashed out anyways. You know, they're going to buy you out or smash you out. You know, vulture capitalism. They're going to come in and smash you out. It's if you're competing with them, if you come out with something that's better than them, you better hide it or something until you get big enough to actually really like compete with them on the stage, because they're going to smash you out. And, you know, Amazon, he did do something, like he was ahead of the curve with what he was doing. Like he was thinking into the future, and that's the reason why he was able to do what he did, because people weren't online ordering and all of that stuff when he came out, you know, but he knew it was coming or whatever. So, but then too, you got to think about the money that it takes to start these kinds of companies and stay in business when you're not profitable year after year after year after year. You know, the majority of us don't have that kind of, you know, liquid cash to keep funneling it into a business that's not profitable, you know? I mean, it's just not feasible. And then not everybody wants to be that, you know, and that's okay. You know, they trying to make us feel bad because we don't want to freaking run a business or whatever, you know? Maybe I just want to work a job and spend time with my family. Maybe I don't want to be a billionaire. And that's okay. Another comment says, I know, right? And everyone around here is just so excited that they want to build a warehouse here because they think it means more jobs and that it will strengthen the job force. I'm over here like, are you effing kidding me? You actually think the plastic company is going to retain long-term workers? Another comment that says, maybe not a billion times harder, but certainly a billion times smarter. And I'm glad this system rewards smart people. Yeah. Smart people, ones who exploit others, have no soul. Is there another one in here before I go into this? This one. It says, homeless man attaches hammock to the bottom of a semi-truck for a free ride. I wonder if this is actually true. Not very safe there, buddy. One little thing goes wrong, bro, you flattened into a pancake. This is not what it is. You're breathing in fumes the whole time. That's not smart at all, y'all. I'm sorry. That is not clever at all. It's got to be fake. There's got to be something fake about this. When would he have time to do that? Like tie a hammock underneath the truck? Like the truck driver don't know nothing about it? Like, I don't believe this is real. Even if it's real, it's so stupid. It says, Shorty TV, it says, there is an accident waiting to happen. What are your thoughts? Another one that says, say you want to die without saying it. Another one that says, no way the driver did his pre-trip inspection. Exactly. Another one that said, that's why it's probably not real. Another one that says, oh, they ain't do their pre-trip inspection before he started his trip. There it goes. Another one that says he don't wants to live no more. Another one, he cares for his life enough to know it's only life and death can set him free if it were to come. Mad respect. I hope he prayed before he took that ride. It says, that shit break, he dead. It says, hopefully there's no potholes on the road. What if he's driving 400 miles across state? Yeah, he needs to pee and poop and eat something. This is so stupid. This is so dumb. I kind of wish I didn't cover this. Let's go back. Let's go back. Not that far back. Kamala Harris. She is hilarious.
It's the only
fake news. Another one says it's impossible to be a moral person and support Israel's ethnic cleansing. They are now starving Palestinians and referring to them as human animals. Israel is not a nation defending itself. It's a racist apartheid state with numerous human rights violations and war crimes. Not Israel's civilians are the ones who are paying the price. Yeah, so, and if you want to think that this is like a left-leaning thing, it's not. And it just so happened that all those comments were on the side that they were on. It's history photographed is the name of this. And the video was not the same as the comments. It was like the opposite.
Проблема в сердце.
Palestinian issue is at the heart of every person in this region. These are Putin's word. And I believe at the heart of every person who professes Islam, that's how it is. It's the obvious. And what has happened, not just now, but for decades, is perceived as a manifestation of injustice. Multiplied on an unspeakable scale. Why? Because initially, when the decision was made to establish the state of Israel, it was also decided to create a second state. So the original plan was to establish two independent sovereign states, Israel and Palestine. The state of Israel was established, as we know, but for Palestine, it never happened. It did not become an independent state. I don't want to go into detail now. Moreover, some of the territories that Palestinians have always considered to be traditionally Palestinian land have been occupied by Israel at different times through different means, but mostly, of course, by military force. What's the problem today? Mechanisms for conflict settlement have been created, but the U.S. has ignored them in recent years and decided to resolve everything on its own. The Americans did not use the existing mechanisms. In recent years, the focus has been on meeting the material needs of people. Living in the Palestinian territories. In fact, they have tried to replace the resolution of fundamentally important political issues with material handouts. Of course, it's very important to solve social and economic issues of people living in poverty. We have always said that this is not going to be enough. Without solving the fundamental political issues, the most critical of which is the creation of a sovereign Palestinian state, with the capital city in East Jerusalem, it is impossible to solve the problem as a whole. Yet still, this is what they chose to bet on besides the settlement policy. Along with a number of other factors, ultimately led to this outburst of violence. what is happening now is terrible. We realize the level of ruthlessness is very high on both sides. However, better both parties may be, they should still do their best to minimize the number of casualties among children, women, and the elderly. If men have chosen to fight, let them fight among themselves. Leave women and children alone. That goes for both sides here. Whether the situation will settle soon, we don't know, but we need to do our best, because the spread of the conflict could have grave consequences, including the energy sector. I don't quite understand why the U.S. is sending its aircraft carrier groups to the Mediterranean. They've sent one and are already announced another one. I don't quite see the point of that. What are they going to do, bomb Lebanon? What are they going to do there? Or maybe they just want to intimidate somebody there. Well, there are people there who are no longer scared of anything. That's no way to solve problems. Instead, they should be looking for compromises. The Palestinian issue is at the heart of every person in this region. And I believe at the heart of every person who professes Islam. Or is it starting over? That's how it is. It's obvious. And that's how it happened, not just now, but for decades. It's perceived as a manifestation of injustice. Multiplied on an unspeakable scale.
Когда принималось решение о создании государства Израиль.
So that was that was Putin's words right there. So RT posted this. It says Russian President Vladimir Putin called on both Israel and Palestine to leave civilians out of the conflict in order to de-escalate the conflict. What is happening now is terrible, said Putin. We realize the level of ruthlessness is very high on both sides. However, they should still do the best to minimize the number of casualties among women, children, and the elderly. After the Hamas surprise attack on Israel and Israel's military response, civilian death tolls are still rising, but are said to be in the thousands for both sides. If men have chosen to fight, let them fight among themselves, leave women and children alone. That goes for both sides, Putin urged. As for solutions to the crisis, Putin pointed to the Palestinian issue as manifestation of injustice. Putin said the original plan was to establish two independent sovereign states, Israel and Palestine. Israel, as you know, was created. Palestine as an independent and sovereign state was never created, reaffirming his commitment to a peaceful two-state solution to the conflict. Yeah, so those are Putin's words there. It says Putin was speaking at the plenary session of Russian Energy Week alongside Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shah al-Sudani. Let's read some comments. It says, I know we're supposed to hate him, but every time he talks, I agree with him. Another comment says, love or hate him, this dude is smart and well-spoken. Another one that says, the greatest politician of our century, what an analysis. Another one that says, long live Russia, long live Russians, long live Putin, sir, and may you claim victory over all your enemies, including USA. Another one that says, there are people who are no longer scared over there. True statements. Says he speaks so plainly, but he doesn't waste a single word when he does talk. Yeah, a lot of people, they're big fans of Putin.
The Middle East. I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
Wow, that's old Biden.
If we look at the Middle East, I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
That's crazy because he's not talking like that right now. Like he's talking the complete opposite right now. So it's like, whatever happened? But I guess that just shows a politician, you know, like from one time to another, they just say what needs to be said at that moment. I mean, like, does he really stand on his convictions? Did he really feel that way back then? If he did, then why is he talking the way he talks now about Israel? Really doesn't, I don't understand it, and I don't really get it. I mean, he was in Congress at this time when he was speaking this way about Israel, and he's the president now. He's speaking like the opposite. I don't know what happened between that time and now. So it was Washington, D.C., June 5th, 1986, when he was giving this speech. 1986. So what has changed between then and now? As African Stream posted this, it says, Young Biden, Israel serves Western interests. Here's something to think about whenever you hear the West wax lyrical about both sides with regard to the Zionist occupation of Palestine. In this 5th of June 1986 video, then U.S. Senator and now U.S. President Joe Biden let the cat out of the bag as to why Israel is so important to the United States. Hint, it's to protect Western interests in West Asia. These remarks given on the U.S. Senate floor demystify the overwhelming show of support Israel has received for almost every Western leader as Palestine intensified its resistance this week. It should serve as a wake-up call for the majority of the international community, which International Polls show is interested in justly resolving the Palestinian question. It matters to Africa as the motherland knows the pain and indignity of living under oppression. Before Palestine was divided for the creation of Israel, Britain wanted to carve out 13,000 kilometers of Uganda, present-day Kenya, from the Mau Escarpment to Lake Victoria for the creation of a Jewish state. Who knows, perhaps today Africans will be on the front lines of their land as Palestinians are for theirs. Even today, Israel has played a large role on the continent, as seen with normalization agreements Egypt, Morocco, and Sudan have signed. The West should be viewed as a biased arbiter, as decades of complicity in oppression and death of Palestinians shows. That's some interesting stuff right there to hear Biden say that Israel represents the West's interests, and saying that if there wasn't an Israel, there would be a need to create one. Heavy, heavy, heavy.
Realism. I like that segue. I'm segue king. Segue God right over here. I appreciate you as an artist and as a humanitarian, as a human being, because I imagine it can be difficult, because you are someone who is righteously speaks out against the disgusting, violent, terrible anti-Semitism that comes from all facets of our society. Sure. But you also are humanitarian enough to speak on behalf of Palestinians who are being treated like second-class citizens. And do you get any pushback as a Jewish person because of this?
No, everybody's cool with it. Everybody's cool with it till they find your email address.
Right.
Of course. Mm-hmm. You know, again, it's and there are a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is that as a Jewish person, you are saddled with the idea that you are not a citizen of America or a citizen of the world. You are a citizen of Israel, and you must back their actions or the actions of, and one has nothing to do with the other, and one has nothing to do with being Jewish or not being Jewish or whatever it is that people choose on their religion or on their history or on their background. It has to do with in the way that I view governments that don't act on behalf of or that, you know, what has happened in that part of the world is tragic. And unfortunately, I think the biggest problem is it's to nobody's benefit, but the Palestinian people that it get resolved.
Right.
It's not to the benefit of the Israeli government. They use the Palestinian issue as a cudgel, and they continue to build settlements and whatever it is they want to do. And no one's suggesting that like terror attacks are okay and that's a good thing. But if you're held to that standard that you don't get your state until nobody tries to kill anybody else, then you're never going to get your state. It's not to the benefit of the other Arab leaders in the region, because their people can be mistreated in the same way by their autocracies. So why do they want to fix the Palestinian situation when they can use Israel as an easy code to get their people in line? Don't look at us, look at Israel.
Right.
We're fucking with you. Look how they fuck with the Palestinians. It's not to the United States' benefit, because we have an ally in the region that's a lot more complicated for us than in other ways, because they rely on our military aid and all kinds of other things.
Yes, indeed.
So if it's not in anybody's interest, in the powers of status quo, what chance do they have?
It's a very efficient way of looking at it. That's exactly what it is.
But what chance?
Yeah.
And it's not really to Hamas's benefit, and it's not to Fatah's benefit, because then they lose their grip on power. So the only people who always lose are the day in, day out Palestinian people.
Yeah.
Because it's to no one's benefit to help them but them.
Yes, indeed.
And so not recognizing that is to be blind to any dynamic. But that doesn't negate how I feel about anti-Semitism.
Of course.
And anti-Semitism is not the same as Zionism.
That's right.
It's not the same as any of it. But boy, don't have that conversation with people.
Interesting.
Now, speaking of colonialism.
Yeah, interesting. Being a Jewish person, it's got to be really difficult to, talk about that in that way.
Unprovoked attack. Full stop. We are appalled by the senseless violence committed by Hamas against the state of Israel. This attack came out of nowhere. It is baffling. I am so shocked. I cannot believe a colonized people living in an open-air prison are retaliating against a racist, genocidal apartheid state which has been massacring their women and children for over half a century now. We pledge our unwavering support to Israel. And you want to know why? Because we need a bulwark against indigenous nationalism in the Middle East. We need to protect our interests. You want to know why we support Israel? I'll tell you why. Because
look at the Middle East. I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
was an unprovoked attack.
Braven New Films posted this. Let's read a comment. It says, except Hamas is not acting on behalf of free Palestine. They are acting on the hatred of Judaism. Hamas has executed Palestinians in the past. Hamas is using Palestinians as human shield as they place themselves amongst the innocent. Egypt is not allowing innocent civilians to flee there for protection. And why would they flee into Israel when Israel itself is being attacked with bombs by Hamas? This is a lose-lose situation that Hamas started unprovoked. This is not the Palestinian fight against Israel. Pay attention to what Hamas is demanding. I don't know if you can say that it's unprovoked. Another comment says, America has been and continues to support a colonialist, racist policy of ethnic cleansing to justify its insatiable hunger for regional power and lust for oil. We, as well as Israel, are governed by fascist leaders drunk with power, with no concern for individual rights or safety. It says, another comment says, don't put the actions of Hamas on Palestinian people. Another comment says, that video is sketch as hell in the age of deepfakes. Your position that this is justified because of history sickens me. At some point, humanity must realize that barbarism gets us nowhere. Don't act like you're pro-life if you defend any of this. Don't act all righteous when babies are beheaded, when parents died in front of their children, when women were beaten. I don't care how long it's been going on. It is all wrong, all of it. Murder is wrong across all beliefs. F all the arguments about who can murder in the name of oppression. No one is justified. Another comment says, how does torching and killing innocent Israeli civilians help these things? Please remember, so many of the Jews being tortured and murdered have been protesting against their own government for these policies. They were murdered because they were Jewish. Another comment says, I'm happy people across the planet are beginning to realize that everything the U.S. does is done in dishonesty. It's always has been and will always be about the Benjamin. Another one, it says, it's a hairy situation because of the Holy Land, but no doubt the government of Israel has gone awry under Bibi. I think American financial support should be contingent on peace between the two. There has to be a solution, even if each does not recognize or respect the other's religion. This is where religion destroys us. Another comment, it says, stop pretending you're not defending the worst terrorism when you are. Hamas does not want peace or solutions. One more. Wow, this one's heavy. Let's read it anyways. It says, ask a question. Are all the Palestinians considered Hamas? It's okay, Israeli soldiers shooting protesters in the ankle, not considering a war crime. Killing children is condemned by everyone. So why is it okay for Israelis to simply kill everyone in Gaza? 52% of 2 million people are under the age of 19 years old. By our very nature and fabric that all living beings have the right to live, you denied everything from them. Water, food, shelter, freedom. Our government tells people all the time, we fight for people's freedom. Perfect example, Ukraine versus Russia, Palestinians versus Israelis. I don't suggest that Ukraine and Palestinians consider the same. They're vastly different. First, Ukraine have a president, representative, and military. Palestinians don't have representative and don't have a military. Hamas isn't their military. There are factions of people from Iran, Egypt, and Palestine that created a party for Gaza but never elected. Netanyahu said the Palestinians to leave. That's a lie. Where the F are they going to go? Jordan can't. That's across through Israel. They get shot. Egyptians don't want Palestinians, and Israelis blow up the only bridge that lead to Egypt. People who say by boat, Israel blown the boat up 200 meters out of shores. What the F Israel want them to do? Fly or open sea in two? They're no gods. Open your eyes. They fighting and killing every very people God said to save on the so-called God land. In case you didn't catch it, I said Palestinians versus Israel's because Palestinians lived there for thousands of years. Now they have no land. If case I was wrong, they're gods with the FUA invitation. Wow, that was a choppy, hard to read and understand comment.
Y'all see this? White House clarifies Biden's claims he saw photos of terrorists beheading children in Israel. Israeli officials say government cannot confirm babies were beheaded in Hamas attack. Oh, Biden did not actually see confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children as he claimed. White House clarifies. Now, I had several people in my comment section talking about, oh, the president said that he seen the actual photos. And y'all actually believed it. I don't understand, why do you believe people who have been proven historically to be liars? Now, this is the president of the United States. that's putting out information that has not been verified at all. His team hadn't even vetted the information yet. But because the American public is so dumbed down and emotional, what did they do? I mean, even big, large newspapers printed this. Major news shows on CNN and other places, TMZ, said, oh, they're beheading children. I mean, this is supposed to be responsible reporting. It's like Kevin Samuel said, you can't make this shit up. You can't make it up. And see, my thing is this right here. We got people over there right now being bombed back into the Stone Ages. And people all around the world, people who are uninformed, who don't take the time to actually look through and investigate and have a mind of their own and be analytical in their thinking, they actually believe everything that the media is telling them. So they have no sympathy, no empathy for those people because they said they beheaded children. Now, anybody would feel that way if children were being beheaded, right? But before we draw conclusions, let's slow it down. Let's stop always believing the corporate media and the president. These people have told millions and millions of lives. They've got it wrong with COVID, with the Iraq war, and so many other things. Come on now, family. Y'all see this? White House.
Yeah, so those, they were talking about beheading children. It came out that nobody saw that. There's no evidence. It was like hearsay, and all the media jumped on it and freaking ran with it.
This is what Gaza looked like before Israel bombarded it, with so far more than 2,000 airstrikes. And this is what it looks like now. Gaza is one of the most densely populated places in the world, with 2.3 million Palestinians crammed into a narrow coastal strip. Currently, the borders are closed. Here are some of the neighborhoods which have been hit. We've looked at some of the buildings which have been targeted, such as this university. We located it using the shapes of nearby buildings. The Israel Defense Force say they targeted it because it was being used as a training camp for weapons development. Let's look at a northern part of Gaza called Arimel. The housing is densely packed. Here it is getting hit by an Israeli airstrike. And finally, this is the El Harbi Mosque before the attacks and after. The Israelis have targeted a number of mosques in Gaza because they say Hamas has been using them to hide weapons in. This all gives you some idea of the sheer scale of the destruction right across Gaza. Hundreds have been killed as Israel presses on with its plan to destroy Hamas, which in turn seeks the destruction of Israel. This is what Gaza looked like.
Yeah, so some of the videos and pictures I've seen, horrible stuff. Horrible stuff.
Do you condemn what Hamas did?
Do you support what Hamas launched?
Of course not. So do you condemn that?
You just condemned Israel for killing civilians, and you won't condemn Hamas for killing civilians.
I'm sorry for your own personal loss. I mean, can I just be clear, though? You cannot condone the killing of civilians in Israel, can you? Do you condemn that kind of action?
That's Hussam Zumlut. He's the head of the Palestinian mission to the United Kingdom, and he's been asked repeatedly to condemn Hamas, including right after being asked about how 6 of his family members were killed in Gaza in an Israeli airstrike. But Zumlut has pushed back against the continued demands of condemnation.
How many times you have interviewed Israeli officials, Louise? Hundreds of times. Hundreds of times. How many times Israel have committed war crimes right live on your own cameras? Do you start by asking them to condemn themselves?
And here, Zumlut is really underscoring a critical way in which the media narrative around this current wave of confrontation has been developed over the last few days. How Israelis are given the moral authority to commit violence against Palestinian civilians without ever having to be asked about it, and how Palestinians are held responsible for violence that's committed against them and their occupiers.
the way to look at the situation in Palestine is to not ignore the history. One of the things that we do repeatedly is to just ignore the Palestinian.
But you condemn
issue.
what Hamas did.
It's very easy for me to condemn unlawful killing. It's very easy for me to
do you condemn it?
It's very easy.
And so when Palestinians like Zumlut or other Arabs and Muslims are asked to condemn violence against Israeli civilians, and especially when it's the first thing that they're asked, they're basically being asked to qualify their humanity. They're basically being asked to say, yes, I don't want to kill you. And this is a specific tool of rhetoric that's been weaponized against specific populations, Arabs and Muslims, for decades now. There's an underlying assumption that if an Arab or Muslim does not condemn a particular type of violence, then they are in fact in favor of it. That's the default, that they are in fact themselves threats. But what's the utility in this demand? There is, of course, an inherent prejudice that does underlie anytime there is a demand for condemnation. Because like I said, if an Arab or Muslim is not distancing themselves from a particular instance of violence, then they're obviously the threats that they were made out to be the whole time. But beyond that, demands for condemnations are used to diminish and obfuscate legitimate concerns and critiques necessary in a given moment, like right now. By spending time on condemnations reserved only ever for one group of people, Israeli war crimes against a besieged population become, at best, a secondary concern and, at worst, a necessity.
I think you're unfortunately going to see collateral damage that we haven't seen in combat and in conflict that we've not seen this century, perhaps going back to what happened during the Second World War.
And inherent in how condemnations are used in this context is the moral authority that's given to Israeli officials who currently are using the language of genocide against the Palestinians, as are many American officials.
And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it. Finish them.
Do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Level the place.
We expect all international organizations to focus on these hostages and how they are treated, but it's not going to stop us, prevent us from doing what we need to do in order to secure the future of Israel.
I don't think there's any way Israel can be expected to coexist or find some diplomatic off-ramp with these savages. And I don't think we know the full extent of it yet. I mean, there's more to come in the days and weeks ahead. You can't coexist. They have to be eradicated.
Time and time again, we find little, at best, deference to international law. Instead, we find full deference to the claims, threats, and solutions of Israeli and American officials. There is no pushback. And instead, we see a fog of war enclose on any and all coverage of what's happening right now. A fog of war that strips an entire nation of its humanity.
They're like savages, they're inhuman. That's what they say over and over again. And then like the attack, they're like, they couldn't possibly have done it on their own. So somebody had to help them, you know. That's another part of it that's like, you know, and you know, their arrogance is the reason why they got caught off guard, is because they like didn't think these people were going to try to fight back. It says demands for condemnation of violence against civilians seems to be reserved only for Palestinians. Why in this case? You know, it's because they don't look at them as human, like they should be eradicated. It's like, it seems like that's what they wanted to do all along. So hard to talk about this stuff, about people getting pissed.
הרגנו בהם, בלי נקיפת מצפון.
The story has that, you know, 750,000 people just left here one day by themselves, obviously is not accurate. And I think it's time for Israelis, for Jews, and for the entire world to acknowledge what happened.
In 1948, Palestinians were dispossessed from most of their homeland in an event known as the Nakba. The rest was divided into what eventually became the occupied West Bank and the blockaded Gaza Strip. The film Tantora shows Israelis admitting they killed Palestinian civilians during the ethnic cleansing.
A lot of the victims have been talking about the Nakba for, decades, but it's very rare to hear this from the perpetrators.
כבשנו טנטורה, תפסנו הרבה ערבים, אספנו אותם. הולך צד אחר, מוצא את האקדח, טח, הרג את כולם.
The director, Alon Schwartz, is an Israeli filmmaker. He went to the Palestinian fishing village of Tantora. He spoke to those who benefited and suffered from the event that wiped out the village in 1948. The country's military has looked to tightly control the release of documents surrounding the ethnic cleansing committed by Israel at that time. Shortly after the Nakba, Zionist forces declared the founding of the State of Israel. Many Israelis have denied the truth of that event.
I think it's important as a society to face the truth, and that's my mission. My mission is to look at the past in order to have a better future for both Palestinians and Israelis.
In the 1990s, an Israeli researcher named Teddy Katz collected evidence that mass murder was committed in Tantora in 1948. But Israel forced him to retract his research. Years later, Alon found Katz, who gave him 140 hours of taped eyewitness interviews from both Jewish and Arab people involved.
I started making a completely different film. I go to Teddy and he gave me the tapes, and we started listening to the tapes in Hebrew and also in Arabic, and we realized there was a story here, that it's not that he lied about everything like they said on Israeli website.
The film was screened in Ramallah, where some Palestinians praised Tantora for showing first-hand accounts of their history that has been buried during their lifetimes. Some Palestinians say the Israelis who killed civilians in the documentary should be on trial for war crimes.
אני אספר לה שאני הייתי רוצח.
A recent Netflix film, Farha, has been widely praised for its first-hand depiction of a young Palestinian girl's experience of the Nakba. Tantora shows Israel confronting itself about the event.
The story is not only the story of 1948 and the terrible thing that happened in Tantura and the general story of the Nakba, but also how Israel...
Yeah, I'm running out of steam here, y'all. Let's see, is there something else here I want to do before I get out of here? Yeah, I don't think so, because I'm tired and I got to work in the morning. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'll probably do some of these tomorrow. Let's do this one. No, that's a whole 3 minutes.
One thing clear, Israel has a right to exist and to defend itself. That is an indisputable fact. But so do Palestinians, and that's a fact that's often ignored. Palestinians are, at best, third-class citizens in the nation of their birth. The idea that it's even remotely controversial to call what Israel has imposed on Palestinians a form of apartheid is laughable.
I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. Anyways, y'all, I got to get out of here. Peace and love. Thank y'all for listening. Be back.